I think I may have found the perfect plane for me. I've been through a few planes over the last year or two. My goal has always been the same, but I've yet to find something that really meets my goal. I like making videos on YouTube, and to that end, a quadcopter is really the best way of doing that. You know, you've got a GoPro, it's very stable, you get very nice footage out of it, it's very controllable. With the 7-inch quadcopter that I've got now, the FR7, I get amazing looking footage. Like, it looks fantastic, super silky smooth. And the same with my 5-inch here. This is a Arma 10 Badger. Great frame, gets amazing video, but they don't fly like a plane. There's something about flying a plane that's just nicer. They feel more natural in the air. They feel like you're working with the environment rather than fighting it. And I really like the kind of gliding, swoopy kind of feel you get from flying a plane. So for you to understand what I'm looking for, I first need to tell you a little bit about how I got to where I am now. So I started flying probably 9 years ago now. I started with, you know, fixed wing, flying line of sight, and then built myself a tricopter out of wood, because David Winter style was all the rage at the time, and that was, you know, what everyone did. And that was fun. I learned a lot. It didn't fly very well, but, you know, it was a fun project. Once I'd figured out how to do fixed wing FPV line of sight okay, and I'd experimented with the tricopter, I built myself a Scarab Vampire, which was a hexacopter, which would carry a 2-axis gimbal and a GoPro. And that was awesome because stabilization, you know, was nowhere near as good as it was now. So you needed a gimbal to get footage that didn't look garbage. And so you needed a big frame to carry a gimbal, you know, because motors and props and batteries were not as good as they are now back then. That was great though, you know, I was able to get some amazing footage. I'll put some links down below to like some of the videos I made using that. And, you know, had a lot of fun with that. For probably 2 or 3 years I flew that. Crashed it once or twice, but nothing too bad, and repaired it, and, you know, did all sorts of interesting stuff with it. And then along that, you know, during that time, I also bought a Skywalker. And I ran 5.8 gigahertz video on it with an XR8 receiver. And that was an amazing plane because it was hugely overpropped, as in it was very, very efficient. It would fly around on like 3.5 amps, and I had like a 5,000 milliamp 4S in it or something. And all I had in it was FPV gear. I had no HD camera, so it would fly forever, just like hours, you know, not hours, okay. It would fly for a very long time. It would fly for like 45 minutes, which, you know, 6 or 7 years ago was a long time. And before lithium ions and everything were kind of a thing. And I just kind of fell in love with it. It was, I never used to hand launch. I didn't have auto launch. Maybe I was using RG-Plane. Maybe RG-Plane had it, but I never used it. I always just would take off from the ground. I had like some 3D printed landing gear, and I would just take off from the ground. And, you know, because it was so lightweight, it was off the ground in like, you know, 10 meters. And, you know, it would land at walking pace. And it was just super nice to fly. Just really easy to fly. You could kind of poodle around, you know, and glide around. It was just fun. And I've kind of been looking for that ever since, that feeling of like kind of floaty, fun flying. And then I kind of had a bit of a hiatus for a while, for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, where I didn't really do much. I still had the gear, but I didn't really use it. And then it was all kind of falling apart. Like my goggles, the rubber was all disintegrating, and my remote control, I had a Tyrannus, and it was like, you know, the gimbals were all scratchy and the buttons were all smashed and everything was just falling apart because I just, you know, used it for so long. And I take pretty good care of my gear, but, you know, it only lasts so long. So I thought, okay, I want to start again. Basically, what do I want to do? And I wanted to do even better quality video than what I could get out of the Scarab Vampire. So I bought an Inspire 2, and the Inspire 2 was a huge investment of money. Like, it was like I think I probably spent $7,000 or $8,000 on that thing. By the time you get all the accessories and, you know, the spare batteries and the... I only had the X4S camera, which is the kind of phantom grade camera, but it was still an amazing piece of kit. And I did some awesome videography with that. Like, I really enjoyed, you know, getting the amazing shots that only that Inspire can get. The ability to fly forwards and point the camera behind you or to the left or to the right is just a massive boon for videography, for single pilot videography. I got so many shots that I just never would have been able to get. And so that was really good, but then the problem was that it had no feel to fly. It was just like a dead brick in the air, you know, same with any other DJI drone, really. I mean, it was really fast, like it would do 100k an hour in the ADI mode. But you never really felt like you were flying it. It was more like I used to jokingly call it a sky tripod, because it's basically what it is. So I owned that for about 2 years, and then I sold it, and thankfully I got almost all my money back. I think I only lost I think I sold it for like $6,000, and I spent maybe 7.5 on it. So I lost a little bit of money, but really I got out of it pretty well. And the reason I sold the Inspire is because I felt like I'd done everything I wanted to do with it. And all as well as that, the new Mavics that were coming out are just so good, and I just thought, like, this is way overkill for the kind of stuff I'm doing. So I sold it all, and that's when I bought the Badger, and I really wanted to get back into planes, because every time I would go on holiday, or every time I would go anywhere really, and see like an open field and somewhere interesting, I would go, I wish I had a fixed wing plane that I could fly here. And so I bought the S800 wing, this exact one, which I've kind of cannibalized, unfortunately. Rest in pieces. But I still have the kind of bare frame. And this was my return into fixed wing FPV, really. And I just rediscovered how much I loved it. Very different to fly than anything else I'd flown before, but I just loved it because it's super agile, lightweight, small, easy to transport, durable, just a great little frame. Carries a GoPro, and also this is my first foray into learning iNav too, so I had never used iNav before this, and I barely touched Betaflight. So yeah, this was a great plane. And around the time that I was flying the S800, I was also traveling around a lot in my camper van. And so I figured out a way to kind of like rig the S800 and my Badger up against the wall of my camper van. And that was really cool because it meant that anywhere I went, I had my two fun machines with me that I could fly. But the S800, it's... in the configuration I was flying it in, it was a bit overloaded. Like the GoPro Hero 8 in the front and a DJI FPV system and a 2200 milliamp 4S. It was kind of overloaded for the motor prop combo that I had, which was pretty small. And I didn't want this like heavy, difficult to manage plane. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to rebuild that. So my plan is to rebuild the S800, but I'll get to that in a minute. And then I kind of went down a different path. So I thought, okay, I want to carry a GoPro. I want a wing. It has to be a wing, was like my thinking, because it has to fit in my van. And the only thing that fits in my van really are kind of flat profile, like wings, because there's no space to put a fragile standard plane with a tail and a T-tail or a V-tail or whatever, and like fragile wings and all that sort of thing, because they'll just get bent and the foam will get all wrecked. And I need something that I can just chuck in and know that it's not going to get knocked around too much. So I bought a right wing mini drac and a hardcore 44 twin, and I bought the mini drac and then never built it. And I think after I bought it, I realized that it wasn't really what I wanted. Like mini drac is a fast, agile wing. It's quite aggressive. I would probably call it a bit antisocial in that, you know, if you fly it at a park, you're going to get someone coming up and saying, hey, you can't, yeah, that's too noisy and loud and I hate it. So the Hardcore 44 Twin, I did get about halfway through building. Here's the Hardcore 44 Twin. So it's a HC44 lightened with 2 motors. So it's, you know, it's almost ready. The reason I stopped building it is because I got to the point where I was almost ready to laminate it and I didn't have any to lam stuff. And then I moved house and it's kind of just sat. So, but the reason that I like the Hardcore 44 Twin is because twin motor means fairly quiet, and I plan to build it very lightweight using one of the SMO 4K Betaflight lightweight cameras, which I've experimented with a bit. It's quite good, very, very lightweight. So I'm going to stick this in the nose of it rather than a GoPro, because this only weighs like 25 grams or something versus the GoPro's like 140. And that should make it very lightweight but still fun to fly, and you know, and it's a good size. So I'm going to finish that up at some point, I think. But it kind of hasn't pulled me back in to keep working on it yet. Oh, I forgot to talk about the binary. I spent a lot of time building that and getting it just right. I got up to the point where it was, you know, it was built and it was flying pretty well, and then I was like trying to decide if I wanted to invest more time in it to do the pan and tilt. It looked amazing. Like I even bought the light kit. I bought the full PNP kit, the light kit, everything, but it didn't feel nice to fly to me. And I wanted something, I think because the wing is not thick enough, I think not deep enough. And I could tell that it wouldn't be able to carry a GoPro, because if it was already needing a lot of airspeed, you know, to fly okay, then adding a GoPro, all the extra weight, would just mean even more, you know, speed, which is the opposite of what I wanted. I wanted something that could slow down and land, short takeoff and landing kind of thing. I forgot about it because I sold it to Tim. That was actually how I met Tim and Will, who you've probably seen on my channel before. They both had Volantex gear, so they both had Volantex Rangers. I think Tim had a Ranger 2000 and Will had a Ranger 1600. And Tim also had a Zod. When I was flying with them, my S800 wing was kind of like, you know, too fast and agile. I wanted, you know, to be able to fly with them, and the Volantex gear came on special on Banggood. It was really cheap in Australia warehouse, so I just bought one, and they're quite cool. Like, I really liked the Ranger as a plane, but it didn't scratch my itch of video making, because it's got this polycarbonate body, plastic body, which is great for durability. Like, it, you know, it's super durable and nice to have that, but it's a pain to try and fit out with FPV gear or with any kind of complicated, you know, setup like a GoPro or something like that. I'm sure people have done it, but it didn't really grab me as a plane that would lend itself to that kind of thing. And as well as that, the stock PNP setup which I had was quite underpowered, so I'd need to upgrade the motor, and taking the motor off that thing is a pain as well, because you've got all these self-tapping screws and, you know, blah blah blah. So I kind of put that in the category of like fun FPV flyer with my friends, but not a camera carrying machine. And I also bought a Volantex Phoenix, which is like the glider version with the tractor prop on the front. I quite like that. That's fun to fly. Again, it's not a camera carrying machine, but it's quite a lot of fun to just like thermal around, and again, it's super lightweight. Like it you know, you just hold it and it flies out of your hand, which I really like. It's super quiet. I've flown at the beach a couple of times and never had anyone, you know, complain. I've always actually had people say it was nice to watch, which is cool. And that, again, you know, is a fun plane to fly, but again, it's like very fragile. You can't really transport it very well. And it can't really carry, you know, cameras and things like that. So that said, this is starting to change with the new Insta360 Go 2, and also this like SMO 4K. This one not so much, because it's quite like it's GoPro shaped, so it's not great for the form factor for the wind resistance. But the Go 2 that's pretty cool. So I'm thinking I will probably get the CADX Peanut, which is the FPV version of that. So that was kind of been my fleet so far. And then I thought, okay, I really miss having a great camera carrying plane. Because around this time when I was flying the Phoenix and Ranger, what is puppy? Puppy dog wants my attention. Stop talking to the camera like a crazy person. The Arwing Pro had just come out. And I thought, ooh, finally. It's built for DJI FPV. It's supposedly, got a good P&P kit. And yeah, everyone was saying it was a great machine. So I thought, cool, I'll buy that. And it was pretty cheap. It was like 160 bucks P&P, which is cheap, I think, for a plane like that. It built very quickly and very easily. I liked that. It was pretty efficient. It was not too difficult to launch. I had to do like an overhead backwards launch to get it to launch reliably. But it flew really badly, I feel. It just felt like it didn't have enough throws or enough, elevon surfaces or something like that, because it just felt like, maybe I'm comparing it too much to the SA100, but I expected it to be at least, half of as maneuverable as the SA100, but it was nothing like it. The roll rate was so slow, and I just didn't really like it very much. So that was a bit of a disappointment. And then on landing, I broke the PMP prop, chipped that off when I landed it, and then swapped it for a different prop, which was slightly larger but less pitch. And then on the next launch, I just think it didn't have enough power, and it spiraled into the ground and fell apart into a million pieces. So I kind of went, oh well, whatever. I don't think I'm going to rebuild it, because I didn't really like it anyway, and I just kind of tried it and didn't like it. So back when I started getting into FPV, there was this guy on YouTube, and I think his name was like Glass Dogangle or Dogangle something like that. But he had some amazing videos where he was flying what I think was a Sky Hunter, and he would do like long range FPV over these misty clouds and like over these amazing scenery. And he always had like 3 different cameras on the plane. He'd have a front camera on like a pan and tilt, like looking around, and then he'd have like a little wing cam looking back at the plane, and then he had like a tail cam looking down from the top of the T-tail. And I was always just like, man, that's awesome. I want to do that. I want to be able to do that. And it's always kind of eluded me. Like I've never really, because the places I tend to fly as well, like, for a plane like that, it's very fragile. You need like a nice big grassy field to fly from, and they're in short supply here. At least ones where you can also fly somewhere interesting. The biggest problem I had with the Arwing Pro and with the SA100 and all wings generally, all wings have this problem, is the lack of yaw authority. And I just found it so frustrating, because the footage looks crap with this like annoying like yaw wobble. And the other thing is that a lot of the time I'm landing in these crappy dirt roads and like in just bad conditions. And the thing is that without a rudder, again, to control yaw, if you've got a crosswind, it's super hard to land a wing on a 3 meter wide stretch of road, something like that. Around about the same time, I was hearing about this thing called the Finwing Albabird. And it'd been out for about a year or two, but I hadn't really seen a lot of talk about it. And I got quite excited about that, because I thought, cool, here's a plane that's not that much bigger than an SA100 wing, so quite portable. The wings come off, so it can be packed down to a smaller size if I want. It's got a rudder, and it's a twin tractor prop, which will mean it will be quiet. And the wing profile it's a very deep wing, so a lot of lift. And then I looked up some reviews, and a lot of people were confirming that and saying, hey, look, it's got great characteristics, it flies really nicely. It's super dismantleable. There's a video of the Alba Bird coming out of a rucksack, like a backpack, and being assembled, which I just thought was like, wow, that's awesome. Oh, another cool thing is the elevator comes off. So even if you glue the tail on, you can take the elevator off, which is another thing. Like, just like the elevator is a very fragile part, and it's all just like, it's just a nylon bolt. You just pop that out, tail comes off. Brilliant. Like, why is no one else doing this? Anyway, And then I realized that the P&P kit is actually good. Like, it's not one of those the typical P&P kits you get from China kits, which it's like, you know, the most bargain basement rubbish plastic analog servos and like the cheapest possible anemic motors and the terrible plastic propellers that aren't real polycarbonate, you know, they just break immediately, and like all that sort of crap, like the cheapest possible ESCs. I don't have, I'm pretty time poor, so I just want to be able to have it all come as one and build it. And so now I'm like, wow, this thing's awesome. You know, like it's got a good P&P quality gear, it's got good motors, it's got decent ESCs, proper, you know, I think they're digital Metal Gear servos. The thing I couldn't get over, I was like, why is no one talking about this plane? This plane seems awesome. So I did lots of research on it, and it is awesome. Like, it's agile, it seems to fly really well. It flies slow, it flies fast, it's quite efficient. The wing load, like the wing size means that it can land slowly. So then in the course of my research, I also found that Finwing actually publish videos and stats and things like that that show the performance of the plane. They actually have flown their own plane and tested it and are willing to supply this information to show that it is actually usable for what they say it's usable for. And I thought, wow, like a company that actually cares about their product. So I'm really quite excited about it. I think this is going to be, I think she's the one. I think this plane is going to be really, really good. That's kind of the lead up to this next build. You kind of have the history now. Some people have like a dream garage. I have a dream garage, where, you know, if you have 3 garage spots in your house, you get to pick 3 cars, any cars you want to have in it, right? I kind of have the same idea with planes. I don't want to have 100 different planes. I want to have like a different plane or a different quad or something for each task or role that I want to fulfill. The hole I've been trying to fill for a while is like my videography machine for doing really amazing plane videos of like amazing locations and things like that. And I think the Alba Bird might be the one to fill that gap. Yeah, so that's my direction right now. So you should expect to see some videos of the build videos of the AS800 and the Alba Bird coming soon. And if you have any questions or, you know, want to put some comments down below, I would welcome them, or I do welcome them. And thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.